Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we are going to talk about another topic in gallbladder and biliary tract disorders, that is primary sclerosing cholangitis. As the name indicates, that primary, that is pathology, is within the biliary tract, and sclerosing means fibrosis, and cholangitis, that is inflammation of the biliary tract. So let's start with its definition. It is a cholestatic liver disease. Cholestatic means that is lack of bile flow. So it is a cholestatic liver disease which is caused by diffused inflammation and fibrosis, as the name indicates, that is sclerosing, which involves the intra and extrahepatic bile ducts. As we have discussed in the previous lecture, that primary biliary cirrhosis involves only the intrahepatic bile ducts, but in this case, that is primary sclerosing cholangitis, intra as well as extrahepatic bile ducts are involved. In short, we can say that the whole biliary tract is involved is in primary sclerosing cholangitis. It is nowadays considered as autoimmune disorder. Male to female ratio is 2:1. It is more common in young males from the 25 to 40 years of age. Now come to its associations. Ulcerative colitis has very stronger associations with primary sclerosing cholangitis. In two-thirds of the patients of in 70% of the patients of ulcerative colitis develop the primary sclerosing cholangitis. It is very important to be remembered in primary sclerosing cholangitis. Other very rare associations are Crohn's disease, chronic pancreatitis, autoimmune hemolytic anemias, immunosuppressant conditions, retroperitoneal fibrosis, Riedel's thyroiditis, and acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, that is HIV infection. But here the important point to be remembered is it has very stronger association with ulcerative colitis. In the clinical features, if the patient presented with the ulcerative colitis usually and has the features of cholestasis, that is lack of bile flow, and the patient present with the features of obstructive jaundice, patient has fatigue, jaundice or intermittent jaundice, and right upper quadrant pain, and also has weight loss, pruritus. This pruritus or the itching of skin is because of the deposition of bile salts in the skin and causes itching of the skin. A patient may have hepatomegaly, that is enlarged liver, as well as splenomegaly. Splenomegaly in these patients is because of development of portal hypertension because of sclerosis or fibrosis of the biliary tract. Now, few words about its complications. The important complication is cholangiocarcinoma. It is very dangerous complication, and it occurs in 20 to 30% of the patients, that is cancer of the biliary tract. And some patients, in 10 to 15% of the patients, develop recurrent cholangitis, that is recurrent infections of the biliary tract. But the liver failure is most common cause of death in these patients. This point is very important to be remembered, that liver failure is important cause of death in these patients. Also, the patient may develop the portal hypertension in severe stages and also ends up with the cirrhosis of the liver or the cirrhosis of biliary tract. Now come to its investigations. In the liver function test or the LFTs, it shows the obstructive jaundice pattern. Obstructive jaundice pattern, that is increased level of alkaline phosphatase, increased level of gamma GT, as well as increased conjugated bilirubin levels, but mild elevation of transaminases, that is ALT and AST. The gold standard investigation in case of primary sclerosing cholangitis is MRCP. It is a radiographic technique similar to MRI. So it is magnetic resonance cholangiopancreatogram, and on this radiography there is a beaded appearance of the biliary tract like this. There are various strictures in the biliary tract. Suppose if this is the bile duct, it may be intrahepatic or extrahepatic, there is a beaded appearance or beading pattern in the MRCP or the radiographic findings. These are basically narrow points are strictures, and this is dilation. And in short, we can say that the beading appearance of the biliary tract. And also some tests like ANCA is positive. It is basically anti-nuclear cytoplasmic antibodies. It is positive in 70% of the patients, but it is non-specific test, as ANCA is also positive in autoimmune hepatitis and other autoimmune disorders like ulcerative colitis as well. Liver biopsy shows the onion skin fibrosis. Onion skin fibrosis in the liver. In the liver biopsy, suppose this is the bile duct which is present within the liver, and around this bile duct there is fibrosis which gives the appearance of the onion skin. So this is onion skin fibrosis around the bile duct, onion skin appearance around the bile duct, as well as there is periportal edema. Portal triad, the edema surrounds the portal triad. So these are the findings in the liver biopsy. But remember, the gold standard or the key investigation is this MRCP. Now come to its management. UDCA is widely used. It is ursodeoxycholic acid, which is basically hydrophilic bile acid, and it improves the features of cholestasis. It improves cholestasis or obstructive jaundice by improving the excretion of the bile, improves the cholestasis. And cholestyramine is used to treat the symptoms like pruritus, that is itching of the skin. Cholestyramine is basically anion binding resin. Resin, it binds with the anions or the pruritogens and help in the excretion of these pruritogen substances or the toxins into the feces. So it improves the features of pruritus. And immunosuppressants like cyclosporin, glucocorticoids, and other immunosuppressants have been used in various patients, but these drugs has very disappointing effects in these patients. Antibiotics like ciprofloxacin, broad spectrum antibiotics like ciprofloxacin has been used in the patients of recurrent cholangitis. If the patient develops the recurrent cholangitis because of primary sclerosing cholangitis, then antibiotics should also be used in these patients. And also fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K vitamins are stored in the liver, and in these patients these vitamins levels are very low. So these fat soluble vitamins should be replaced with the supplements. In the ERCP, that is endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatogram, in which the endoscope is passed into the esophagus, then into the stomach, and then ultimately through the duodenum reach the biliary tract, a stent should be placed. If there is a visible stricture or the obstruction, then stent should be placed in the biliary tract to relieve the obstruction. So it should be done if the visible obstruction is in the biliary tract. Now the next management step is orthotopic liver transplant. Orthotopic means that liver should be taken from the dead person and transplanted into the patient of primary sclerosing cholangitis. It is a definitive treatment. It is a definitive treatment, but after the liver after the liver transplant, the patient has a lifespan of around 5 years in 80 to 90% of the cases. But this transplant should be contraindicated if the patient has developed this cholangiocarcinoma or the cancer of bile duct. And after the liver transplant, the patient has very high risk of colonic cancer or the colic cancer because of immunosuppressant therapies after the liver transplant. Now few words about secondary sclerosing cholangitis. In the secondary sclerosing cholangitis, the visible source for the cholangitis is present, like if there is an insertion of alcohol into the hepatic tumors, which leads to the cholangitis or inflammation of the biliary tract, or there is an insertion of formalin into the hydrated cysts of the liver, may lead to the cholangitis in the patients. And also other causes like stones in the biliary tract or parasitic infections of the biliary tract may lead to cholangitis of the biliary tract. Then these are various causes. These are the different differential diagnosis, or these are the various causes of secondary sclerosing cholangitis. But in primary sclerosing cholangitis, there is no apparent visible cause. So this was whole about the sclerosing cholangitis. Thank you so much for watching this video.